May 2025, London. The cameras were already lined up outside the Royal Courts of Justice before he even arrived. Reporters, photographers, the kind of crowd that gathers when they know something is about to end. The steps of the courthouse were wet from the morning rain. He walked down them slowly. No rush. Nowhere to be. He looked straight ahead, not at the cameras, not at the crowd. Just ahead, into nothing. He had lost. Again. But this wasn't just a legal loss. This was the last practical road back to the United Kingdom gone. Closed. Officially. And he knew it. That same evening, he sat in front of a BBC camera, and he said the words that no PR team, no palace advisor, no lawyer would have ever told him to say. I don't know how much longer my father has. That wasn't a statement. That was a man with nowhere left to go saying out loud what he had only allowed himself to think in private. And that single moment tells you everything about where Prince Harry is right now. Today, we're going to go deeper than the headlines. We're going to understand what the security case was actually about and what it wasn't. We're going to look at why the silence between Harry and King Charles has lasted this long. We're going to examine what Project Thaw really means. And at the very end, we're going to ask the question that almost no one is asking. This isn't a story about villains or victims. This is a story about a man caught between two worlds and accepted completely by neither. To understand this story, you need to understand the people in it. Harry, he was the spare his entire life, born second, always one step behind William, always two steps behind the throne. He served 2 tours in Afghanistan, and that matters more than people realize, because for the first time in his life, he wasn't a prince. He was a soldier, judged on merit, not bloodline. That identity the soldier was probably the last time Harry felt completely himself. And then, it was over, and the cameras came back. Meghan. She arrived in that institution from the outside Hollywood, ambition, self-made, and she left on her own terms. In California, her career is growing. Netflix, her as-ever lifestyle brand, executive producer credits. The strategy is clear, but according to multiple royal commentators, Harry's role within that strategy has been quietly shrinking. King Charles. He is a father receiving cancer treatment. Time is not a guarantee, and reportedly he was not speaking to his son. Not because he didn't want to, but because of a government committee's decision about bodyguards. The palace. It is not a family home. It is an institution, and institutions don't feel. They calculate. Their silence is never accidental. It is always a weapon, and it has been sharpened over decades. You can leave a palace, but the palace doesn't leave you. Timeline Map 2020. Harry and Meghan made it official they were stepping back from senior royal duties. They wanted financial independence. The Queen called an emergency summit at Sandringham. Senior royals flew in. Negotiations happened behind closed doors, and ultimately they left. 2021. The Oprah interview. The world watched. Allegations of racism within the royal family. Claims that support had been withdrawn. The palace responded with a single line. Recollections may vary. 4 words. That was all. 2023. Spare. Harry's memoir. It wasn't just a book, it was a grenade. Arguments with Charles. A physical confrontation with William, as Harry described it. The inner mechanics of the monarchy exposed. Charles reportedly stopped direct communication after this. The rift, according to those close to the situation, became irreparable. 2024. King Charles cancer diagnosis. Harry flew briefly to the UK. A hospital visit reportedly under 30 minutes. William was not there. Even in a hospital corridor, the distance was visible. April and May 2025. The Court of Appeal. The security case final hearing. 3 senior judges reviewed the evidence. Harry lost. That same evening, the BBC interview. Those words, the ones we started with. September 2025. Clarence House. A private tea. Harry and Charles face-to-face for the first time in 19 months. Less than an hour. No cameras. No statement. But it happened. Late 2025. Reports emerged of something called Project Thaw, an alleged effort to gradually rehabilitate Harry and Meghan's image in the UK. Unconfirmed, but not denied. A new RAVEC risk assessment was reportedly underway. December 2025. Meghan posted a photograph on Instagram. A bridge, trees, Harry hugging Archie, Meghan holding Lilibet's hand. Happy holidays, from our family to yours. No statement. No context, just a family, living their life. That is the timeline. And when you lay it out like that, this isn't a scandal. This is a slow fracture between a father and a son, with a clock running in the background that nobody wants to acknowledge. The security case, what it really meant. Now, let's talk about the security case. Because almost everyone misunderstood it. Most people thought it was about bodyguards. It wasn't. When Harry stepped back from royal duties in 2020, the UK government's RAVAC, the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures, reviewed his situation. Their conclusion: his publicly funded security would no longer be automatic. It would be assessed case by case. Harry challenged that decision in court. He argued the process was flawed and that he hadn't been given a fair chance to make his case before the decision was made. The courts disagreed 3 separate times. But here is what that case was actually about underneath the legal language. Security wasn't about bodyguards. It was about belonging. Without automatic security, every trip to the UK becomes a logistical operation, expensive private protection, complicated arrangements, a barrier, not an impossible one, but a real one every single time he wants to come home. And if coming home is difficult, reconciliation is difficult. And if reconciliation is difficult, his children growing up knowing their British family is difficult. The security case was the last practical door. And it closed. April 8, 2025, Royal Courts of Justice. The 3 judges, Lord Justice Bean, Lord Justice Eddies, and Sir Geoffrey Voss, delivered their decision. RAVAC ruling was reasonable and lawful. No new grounds were found. The appeal was dismissed. Harry walked down those steps. The media were shouting, cameras flashed. He didn't look at any of them. That evening, BBC. And no lawyer in the world would have told him to do what he did next. He sat down, and he spoke. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. Think about that. Any PR advisor, any communications team, any lawyer, they would have stopped him. You don't go on camera the same evening you lose a case. You don't give your opponents ammunition. You don't say there's no point anymore in public. But he did, which means one of 2 things. Either his team made a deliberate calculation use emotion to generate public pressure on Charles, or he was genuinely broken that evening and wasn't thinking strategically at all. Both possibilities are equally revealing, and we don't know which one is true. 3 theories. So why did Harry go public the way he did? Why name his father on camera? Why say I don't know how much longer he has? Let's look at 3 honest possibilities. Theory 1. Desperation. Harry had exhausted every legal option. He had no more moves, so he went to the only court that was still open to him, the court of public opinion. By speaking emotionally about his father's health, he was making a direct appeal to Charles in the only way he had left, through a camera. The weakness of this theory is that the palace responded with cold efficiency. 1 statement. No warmth. If the goal was to soften Charles, it didn't work. Theory 2. Strategic PR. Harry and Meghan's brand in California was growing, but in the UK, their image had been consistently negative since Spare. A reconciliation narrative, especially one tied to a father's illness, generates sympathy. It softens British audiences. The timing of the interview, right after the verdict, was not accidental. Someone made that call. The weakness here is that if it was purely strategic, it required Charles to respond warmly, which he didn't, publicly at least. Theory 3. Genuine crisis. Harry is scared. His father is ill. He doesn't know how much time is left. He lost his last legal avenue. He can't easily visit the country where his family lives. He said what he said because he meant it, not because someone told him to, but because he's a son who is running out of time and running out of options. The fact that he looked away from the camera when he said it, that small detail, suggests this was rehearsed. The honest answer is probably all 3 at once, because that's how real human beings work. We are desperate and strategic and sincere all at the same time. And no single theory does justice to the complexity of what we saw that evening. Reconciliation needs 2 sides. Silence only needs 1. Let's stop for a moment. We've talked about legal cases and theories and palace strategies, and it's easy to lose the human being inside all of that. Harry was 10 years old when Diana died. He walked behind that coffin, in front of the world. That grief, the most private thing a child can experience, happened publicly, with cameras, with crowds, with the whole planet watching a little boy lose his mother. Then Afghanistan, 2 tours, real service, real danger. and reportedly real psychological impact. In his own accounts, he has spoken about the trauma he carried back, the PTSD, the years of not dealing with it, the drinking, the anger. These weren't tabloid inventions. He said them himself, and then the spare. His entire identity for his entire life defined by what he wasn't. He wasn't the heir. He wasn't the future king. He was the backup, the insurance policy. Second, always second. December 2025, Meghan posted that photograph. A bridge, trees, late afternoon light, Harry hugging Archie. Lilibet reaching up toward Meghan. A family, happy, grounded. That image wasn't for the press. It wasn't a message to the palace. It was just a family living quietly in the life they chose. And maybe that's the one thing Harry has that the palace cannot take away. He chose his family. And they are still there, still whole. But a man can want two things at once. He can be happy with his children and still want to speak to his father. He can have built a life in California and still feel the pull of the country he left. These things are not contradictions. They are just human. Midway recap where we are. So, what do we know so far? 1. Harry stepped back from royal duties in 2020. 2. The security case was lost, finally and officially, in May 2025. 3. King Charles was reportedly not speaking to Harry, and the security dispute was reportedly the reason. 4. In September 2025, they met privately at Clarence House, the first face-to-face in 19 months. 5. Project Thaw reports exist, but are unconfirmed. 6. Harry's family in California appears stable and grounded, but Harry's own identity, professional and personal, is genuinely unclear. Now let's look at the one thing almost no one is talking about. The palace silence. It's not weakness. When Harry gave that BBC interview, the world waited for the palace to respond. Journalists refreshed their feeds. Commentators speculated. Everyone expected something, a counterstatement, an acknowledgement, something warm, something cold, anything. The palace gave one sentence. All of these issues have been examined repeatedly and meticulously by the courts, with the same conclusion reached on each occasion. That was it. One sentence. No emotion, no Harry's name, no acknowledgement of the father-son dynamic. Nothing. And the immediate reaction from many people was, the palace has no response. The palace is afraid. The palace is cold and out of touch. But that reading is wrong. Think about what the palace has done every single time someone has attacked them, appealed to them, or tried to pull them into a public emotional exchange. Diana's campaign. The Oprah interview. Spare. Every time one line or nothing. And every time the person on the other side kept talking, kept explaining, kept defending. While the palace stood still. The palace has understood something for a very long time. When someone is arguing with you publicly, the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing, because silence forces the other person to keep filling the space. And the more they fill it, the more exposed they become. Harry gave interviews. Harry wrote a book. Harry went to court 3 times. Harry went on BBC the same evening he lost. The palace, in every instance, gave one line or less. That is not weakness. That is a strategy refined over 100 years, and against Harry, it has worked perfectly. In a public argument, the one who speaks more loses more. Meghan's trajectory. While Harry was in London losing a court case in April 2025, Meghan was in Paris, attending the Balenciaga show. Front row, photographed, poised. That contrast was not lost on royal observers. Meghan's career in California is, by any honest measure, growing. The Netflix deal was renewed. With Love, Meghan, her lifestyle show launched. The As Ever brand is expanding. She executive produced the Polo documentary. The arc of a self-made, globally recognized businesswoman is coming together. And Harry? His professional identity in 2025 is harder to define. He is the author of Spare, a book that was consumed, debated, and then largely moved on from. He is a royal, an institution that rejected him. He is Meghan's husband, which is real, but it is not a career. Royal commentator Kinsey Schofield put it directly. In the royal family, Harry was the spare. In Hollywood, he risks becoming the supporting character. That is a harsh observation, but it is not an unfair one. And the reason it matters isn't about who's winning or losing. It's because a man without a clear identity who has been searching for one his whole life is vulnerable. And vulnerable people make decisions based on emotion. And emotional decisions are not always good ones. The real crisis here is the thing that everyone is missing. Harry's biggest problem is not the palace. It's not the security decision. It's not even the broken relationship with his father. Harry's biggest problem is that his entire life, his identity has been handed to him by external forces. He didn't choose to be born second. He didn't choose to be the spare. He didn't choose to lose his mother at 10 years old in the most public way imaginable. He didn't choose to be a prince in an era where princes are expected to be symbols rather than people. Afghanistan gave him something rare, a role he earned. A place where who his father was didn't matter, where results mattered, and then that was over too. He chose Meghan. He chose to leave. He chose California. Those were his decisions. And they were real decisions. But even those choices have been absorbed into a larger narrative that other people control. The rebel royal, the man who walked away, the author of Spare. These are identities, but they are all defined by what he left, not by what he built. And then Centabale, the charity he founded in 2006 with Prince Siaiso of Lesotho in memory of Diana, built specifically to support children affected by HIV in southern Africa. His mother's legacy, in the most direct sense. In 2025, he reportedly lost that too. The details remain unclear, but the loss was reported by multiple outlets, including royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams. His mother's charity, gone. Step back and look at the full picture. The palace rejected him. The courts rejected him. Hollywood hasn't fully embraced him. His most personal charitable connection is gone, and he cannot easily return to the country where his father is ill. This isn't a story about a man who made bad choices. This is a story about a man who made choices real, difficult human choices, and then discovered that consequences don't always care about your intentions. Leaving the institution was the easy part. Living without it is harder. The TEA at Clarence House, and yet September 2025. Clarence House. A private meeting. Harry and Charles. Face to face. No cameras. No statement. No announcement. Reportedly less than an hour. But it happened. 19 months of nothing, and then a cup of tea. Shortly after, reports emerged about Project Thaw, an alleged establishment effort to rebuild Harry and Meghan's relationship with the British public. Whether this is real policy, media speculation, or someone's wishful thinking, we genuinely don't know. The palace has not confirmed it. They haven't denied it either. What we also know, Ravik reportedly began a new risk assessment. Harry's friends have told outlets he wants Archie to attend school in the UK. These are small signals. None of them are definitive. All of them point in the same direction. Maybe the September meeting was genuine reconciliation. Maybe Charles' diagnosis changed the calculation because illness has a way of cutting through pride. Maybe Harry offered an olive branch and Charles quietly accepted it. Or maybe it was a one-time gesture that leads nowhere. We don't know. But here is what we do know. That meeting happened, and meetings are how things start. Silence can be broken. Time cannot be recovered. Harry said, "I don't know how much longer my father has." But the real question underneath that sentence isn't about how much time Charles has left. The real question is, how much time does this relationship have left? Court cases end. Press cycles fade. Public narratives shift. Buildings outlast the people who built them. But there comes a day for every father, every son, every fractured family when the option to pick up the phone simply isn't there anymore. When the door closes not because of a decision, but because of time. And maybe, just maybe, Harry understands that now. And maybe Charles does too. Because that tea at Clarence House didn't make headlines. It wasn't staged for cameras. It wasn't released as a statement. It was just two people in a room with whatever time they have left. A prince who spent his life being defined by other people is still searching for who he is. A father who may not have much time is sitting in a palace. And somewhere between London and California, there is a door, still open, just barely.